Good evening. A special meeting of Los Gatos Town Council is called to order. And we have one item on the agenda tonight. And so if the clerk would call the roll, please.
Councilmember Arista. Councilmember Ennie.
Here.
Councilmember Badami.
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore.
Here.
Mayor Hudas.
Here. And just to clarify, since we have 3 people in person, do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Thank you. We will proceed with verbal communications. And I believe there's just this one item, so we can take verbal communications from the public at this point. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak? Okay. Right. Verbal is for items on the agenda, and we will get to that from those who filled out cards. But is there anyone online who would like to speak?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. So let's go directly to the staff report, please. Ms. Shootman, you could walk us through that.
Sorry, I intended to state that Councilmember Risto does not have a conflict of interest under the State Political Reform Act, but she has known the appellant for quite a long time, and so she has made the decision to abstain tonight in order to avoid any appearance of bias.
Okay, and as long as we are interrupted the flow, why don't we do disclosures? So I'd ask the council members if they have any disclosures.
I would disclose that I visited the site.
I visited the site as well.
Okay. Councilmember Rennie?
I have not visited the site.
Okay. And I also visited the site today. So thank you. And now we'll go ahead with the staff report. Ms. Shootman.
Thank you and good evening. Before you is an appeal of the Planning Commission decision approving the construction of a new 2-story residence at 16497 South Kennedy Road. On March 26th, the Planning Commission considered the application, including written and verbal public comments, and approved the request with added conditions of approval. On April 3rd, this decision was appealed to the council by 2 adjacent neighbors. In their appeal materials, the appellants have indicated that there was an error or abuse of discretion and that the Planning Commission's decision was not supported by substantial evidence in the record as detailed in attachment 5 of your packet this evening. A discussion of each of these points has also been provided in the staff report. In summary of the application, the applicant proposes a 4,194 square foot 2-story residence with an attached 2-car garage. The residence also includes 865 square feet of below-grade square footage. Due to the constraints of the site, the applicant is requesting the following exceptions from the Hillside Development Standards and Guidelines: grading depths in excess of 4 feet of cut and 3 feet of fill, retaining walls in heights the excess of 5 feet, retaining walls in excess of 50 feet without a break, and siding of the building outside of the least restrictive development area. Discussion of each of these exceptions was provided in the March 26 Planning Commission staff report. Since the decision of the Planning Commission was appealed, the applicant has proposed the following modifications to the southwest elevation of the home that are also reflected in attachment 6. A reduction in the size of the windows by 20%, the removal of a smaller deck, a reduction in the size of a larger deck, the removal of a panel from the glass doors, a reduction in the height of the glass doors from 16 feet to 12 feet, and the planting of 6-foot-tall evergreen trees along the entirety of the basement floor. Staff recommends that the council deny the appeal, upholding the Planning Commission's decision to approve the project, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. This concludes staff's presentation. However, staff is available to support the council.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Badami?
I don't know if this is the right time or not, but the LRDA, is there a way that we can put a slide up so that we can see it? Because there's some question as to what the allowable area would be within the LRDA, and I need to understand those particular sections and what the square footage of those 3 individual sites, I believe, that totaled 200 square feet.
I can identify the page in the development plans and ask the clerk to have that posted.
That'd be helpful. The plans in our packet are very, very small, so.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? I had a question for the town attorney. In the discussion with the Planning Commission, there was some discussion about the right to development and what would constitute a taking. And so my question is that if a developer came in and wanted to develop a property but did not comply with the town's ordinances or zoning, would they have the right to build without it being a taking?
There are definitely circumstances under which they would not have the right to build without it being a taking. So takings can come about when there's a government regulation that is deemed to be an excessive regulation that deprives a property owner of any economically viable use of the property. And there will not be a taking if the government regulation substantially advances a legitimate government interest and the regulation does not prevent the property owner from making economically viable use of his or her property.
Councilmember Badami, looked like you might have a follow-up.
That was the basis for me having the LRDA pulled up, because I was going to ask that same question. I understand that Commissioner Stump, during the Planning Commission hearing, had made the inquiry on this with SB 9 lot splits having extreme development challenges and the right to develop. So I had read the transcript and your response, but you just went a little further for us based upon the mayor. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I may come back to this later in discussion, but I would like to get on with the public hearing. So if there's no other questions from council members, this is the way we'll proceed. The appellant will have 5 minutes between the appellants. The applicant will have 5 minutes, and then the public will have 3 minutes apiece, and then the applicant will have 3 minutes, and then finally the appellant will have 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and open to testimony. So the appellant, I have Rohit Bakshi, and if you'd like to come forward, and you have 5 minutes, and then there may be follow-up questions as well. You have 5 minutes now, and then there's an additional 3 minutes at the end. Correct. Yes. Could I ask you maybe to raise the microphone a little bit? Okay, thank you. Hold on, I think we may, let's make sure we're getting the audio.
Okay,
Is
test.
Okay.
Yeah,
there
that's
we
good.
go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this is, hi everyone, good evening. This is Rohit Bakshi. I'm the neighbor on the southwest elevation. First, I wanted to acknowledge that the applicant has made some changes, reducing a few windows, removing one balcony, and adding limited landscaping. These are welcome gestures, but they fall well short of what's needed to address the core harm to us, which is on the privacy front. Let me explain. The proposed changes do not amount to a real 20% reduction, as in I don't know where that math is coming from based on some of the comments. They seem to be unsubstantiated. I would definitely like a much more clarification on that. Many of the largest, most intrusive windows along the southwest elevation, the ones that directly face our home, pool, and bedrooms, remain unchanged. The town's hillside standards make it clear that privacy must be addressed in the design stage, not patched later, which is most of what this conversation is about. It's like, how do we mitigate it? It's not being taken into account when this thing was being designed. Yet, no formal privacy impact assessment has been done. No staff member, to the best of my knowledge, has visited my house to see what these sightlines look like. You're making decision based on selective photos taken from incorrect elevations, and everybody is going to select the most convenient photo. So in my opinion, a proper assessment has not been done. A council member, and this is from the last meeting, suggested that the southwest elevation is the only place the applicant can get natural light, so it's only natural that most of the windows should be facing that side. I assessed all the architectural plans, and I see it as simply being incorrect. The master bedroom, as an example, has northwest-facing balcony. The kitchen, family room, dining room, and living rooms receive light from other directions, northwest and southwest. Stairwells and pantries don't require direct natural light, and yet they are getting large southwest-facing windows. I still fail to understand why. In the light of this concern, there are alternatives: repositioning windows, using frosted glass, installing skylights. None of this is being explored fully. Even clear stairwell windows facing our home are being left as is. The applicant claims a large oak tree block, which is on our property, blocks the view into our property. This is simply false. Everybody is welcome to come to my house and view this. That tree offers limited screening and has very limited foliage. The idea that a single tree is a privacy solution is unreasonable. Privacy hedging that is to be used must follow best practices for being fire safe, non-toxic. We have children, we might have pets in the future as well. And very importantly, being fully grown and mature. I want privacy for my home from day one, not a few years from now, which I would say everybody would assume that's like a fair request. To further reinforce my point on how I'm looking to good faith collaboration, I did have a discussion with Robert, and one of the things he keeps bringing up is like he'll use drapes. Unfortunately, I cannot put a drape around my pool and my backyard and my hot tub. Like, that's not an option for me. That protects the privacy of them. That does not protect my privacy. And I don't see this as good faith collaboration. Lastly, we look forward to reviewing the final geological study, which remains pending. Given the steep slope and known soil conditions of the site, this report is critical. We urge the council to hold this appeal open until the study is complete and formally reviewed and improved by the town's appointed geotechnical engineer. All we are asking here for is, before you finalize this decision, please uphold the standards you have written and enforced for years. Send this back, demand a professional site-based privacy study, and final binding architectural changes that truly respect my family's right to its privacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. So now I will call, there is still some time. There's 1 minute if your co-appellant wanted to speak. There's also 3 minutes later after the hearing. But yeah, those are the rules that we've established. 5 minutes for the appellant, 5 minutes for the applicant, then 3 minutes each for the public, and then 3 minutes each for rebuttal or other questions for both the applicant and the appellant. So go ahead.
Grab the mic, sorry.
Please adjust the mic so the audio can pick you up.
Mr. Nichols is under overdue compliance instructions of the local fire department for brush removal of this land. The town has not evaluated yet if he's under code mismanagement for failure to remove dense and overhanging dead trees. For 47 years, I've cleared this land for 12.5 tons a year. A fire hazard is within the town. When it ignites, no home from Longmeadow to Surrey Farms along South Kennedy and up Kennedy will be spared. I have to live with Mr. Nichols, and I'm not against him having a house. If you're going to grant a building permit, I'm asking you to have Mr. Nichols, before construction and land removal, to make a retaining wall to protect the walls along the upper border of the project, not just his reinforcing of his own home. When a wall falls, and a wall will fall, the displaced dirt is not going to be directed to his house. I'm very interested in fire protection. This is a kitchen table issue in the areas around this building site.
Thank you. I did have a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind. In walking the site, I observed that vegetation management had really not been performed on what is it, Vivian? And I was wondering if you had any background on whether, you know, that private road has been managed for vegetation.
After the road was made, Mr. Nichols remodeled his home. It's called the down driveway to South Kennedy, and the road was basically wrecked by the heavy trucks. But the remodeling did not allow for this kind of review. Are you going to fix the road or not? And that's one of the issues. He's willing to fix the bottom 5 feet of the down driveway after the heavy trucks are finished, but not the whole.
Okay, thank you. I also had another question about the suggestion for another retaining wall, an additional retaining wall. Is that correct? Did I get that right? And has that been conveyed to the applicant?
I'm not sure. This is a 70-year-old garden wall without any reinforcement between his house and ours. This is a huge amount of dirt that's going to be removed. The consultants that I've had said there's no way that this wall will last a significant dirt removal. So a short wall to that's not part of his house, close to the garden wall, probably would be sufficient and done before the construction begins. But there's a second area, that there's tree number 22, which holds an embankment on a 7 to 80 degree slope. And this is listed as being removed, and there's no suggestion of how to replace what that tree is doing to withhold the road.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miller. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, we have another question.
Dr. Miller?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. You said you weren't against having a house, and an LRDA can be an issue, regarding buildability. This is an extremely sloped lot, so that's not as much your concern as the retaining wall, the defensible space, and vegetation management. Is that how I understand you?
I'm not against him having a suitable home that you guys agree is correct for. I'm not against him having a suitable home. I'm not a NIMBY. He has the rights to a home. It just has to be suitable. And you guys are the ones to determine what's suitable or not.
Thank you, Dr. Miller.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now the applicant, don't have a card, but, I see, this is for the first time, yeah. Mr. Nickel?
Yes, hi. So yes, I'm the applicant, Robert Nickel, and I were with you folks about 5-6 weeks ago, and the all 5 of the people on the board approved the project, and now that the 2 of my neighbors who you just heard from have appealed the approval. So I have worked with my architect, and we reduced the windows with the square footage. My architect has a calculation. It was a 21.4% reduction in the overall windows. We removed a balcony from the dining room and removed the larger windows from the sliding glass door to go out to the balcony from the dining room, and eliminated a window where the dining room is. As well as in the living room, we've shrunk the larger deck to a smaller deck per the recommendations by the council, and then we made the 16-foot wide door going out to the living room to be a 12-foot door, as well as we obscured the glass on the pantry pantry window, as well as the bathroom window that's on that southwest facing wall, as well as we also shrunk the windows on the basement floor, as we provided, in the response to the town, and also in regards to the sight lines, in regards to the downhill neighbor with the privacy concerns, their house is over 150 feet away, as you can see on A11 that we provided, as well as in this example. So as you can see, the roof line and eave of the roof line blocks the view downward of the neighbor's patio and pool. You'll only be able to see parts of the second story at best through the trees, as well as the downhill neighbor did mention that none of the town has been to his property, but he provided pictures where you could barely see parts of the orange netting in only a couple of different places. So the tree cover is from mature oak trees that have been there for hundreds of years, and his concerns with privacy are just as much as my concerns, and I'm here and willing to work and compromise on finding a solution for still having natural light within my home, within all of the rooms, so that it's not a bat cave, it's not a dark area, and the southwest facing direction is for the view, right? And is also provides great sunlight as well. So there's a couple other things that I'd like to go through. So the maximum height of the proposed house is less than allowed within the hillside standard guidelines. The proposed residence isn't more than 25 feet high at any location, and it isn't more than 35 feet from the lowest point around the perimeter to the ridge line. I'm more than willing to have signage put up for the construction workers to not park on Dr. Miller's stone steps, or even past, where the main driveway will be, and the traffic construction management plan, as well as signage. I understand that that's something that definitely bothers them, so I'm more than willing to, address that. The retaining walls, which require the exception, are requirements from fire. So there's things that we had to adhere to be able to get the project approved to the new standards. And that's why the cut and fill is past its limits.
Okay, thank you. There may be some questions. Okay, nothing from Councilmember Rennie. I actually did have some questions. I wanted to understand the changes that, and they are, you say they're outlined in your response, which I think is attachment 6, page 298. And I wanted to just understand the changes that are essentially new since the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And so if I could, I just looked at some, and maybe you could tell me whether these are correct or whether there are other ones. The first one is that the bolt in the wall was addressed. Number 2.
That I hired the story pole company to do, and I'm not quite sure if they have came out and taken the load off. I meant to drive up there, and I was running a little late today, and I couldn't double check to see, but if not, it will definitely be done this week.
Okay. And then number 4, that you will repair damaged concrete at the bottom of Vivian Drive. Question, why would it be restricted to the bottom of Vivian Drive. If there was damage that was caused elsewhere.
No, so there's some damage at the bottom of Vivian Drive when we're going to be widening the driveway for fire. I'm proposing to do the repairs when we're doing the widening of the drive.
Okay, thank you. Number 10 was water tanks. I think it was discussed in the Planning Commission, but you say that at this point, it doesn't appear water tanks will be required. Can you explain that further?
Yeah,
that was one of the concerns that was raised at the Planning Commission.
Yeah, so from working very closely with the fire department, there was not ever a mention of me designing or putting in water tanks. And this was brought up by the appellants, and I had not heard of any such requirements from fire when we designed the plan.
Okay, and then number 11, you now have a date that you've suggested that there will be a report from the geotechnical engineer in mid-May.
It should be any day now, yes. And I'll provide that as soon as I get it.
Okay. And then under 12, there were a number of items. There was the 20% window. You said reduce the window coverage by 20%. Is that the total window coverage? Do you have anything that substantiates that?
Yes, it says in the box to the left, the previous glazing is 627 square feet and the proposed reduced glazing at 498. And then it's drawn with the dotted lines around the windows of the previous would be the dotted line.
Okay, and I'm not seeing that. Is that on a different page?
Jocelyn, do you know what page that is?
Yes, so in attachment 6, if you go to sheet A8, he's referring to the southwest elevation, and to the left on that side of the page, there is a table where their square footage is called out.
And is that only on that elevation, or is that on the total elevation?
It's only shown for this elevation.
And Mr. Miller, if you could explain how you calculated a 20% reduction.
My architect did the calculation.
Okay, and that was on just this one elevation, though. It's 20% reduction on this elevation.
For all 3 floors in this elevation, correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the other one said remove the balcony and the living dining area.
Correct.
And reduce the other balcony.
Yes.
Okay. So those are all new items that the Planning Commission didn't review, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, after your questions, I did have one more follow-up question. So just so I understand, so you talked about a 21 point something percentage reduction in windows. Is that in the square footage of the windows?
Square footage of the windows,
Got it.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Don't see any other questions, so thank you. And now there's time if anyone from the public would like to comment on this. Do we have any? I don't have any cards from the public. Is there anyone online who would like to comment?
There's one hand raised on Zoom. Chris?
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, this is Chris Spalding, the architect. I was trying to get Mr. Nickel to let me speak during those questions.
Okay, so that would probably be appropriate if you want to speak as part of the 3 minutes that are allotted for the rebuttal. So
that would be fine.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, So any other public comments? Anyone else on Zoom?
There are no other hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so we're back, and so if you go ahead, Mr. Nickel, with your 3-minute rebuttal or questions.
Yeah,
or
if you
really
can bring
anything
Chris
like.
online, please.
Yeah, he's online now.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, great. I wanted to address one thing about the LRDA. I'm looking at the constraints analysis and site selection in the hillside standards, and the LRDA doesn't like rule out building on slopes over 30%. It says to illustrate the topography with emphasis on slopes over 30%. So in other words, the LRDA is supposed to show the least restrictive development area, meaning the portion of the site that would, have the least restrictions. And that includes the mature trees, the geology, the slope. And on this site, it includes an extensive amount of easements that break up the site into basically unbuildable sections. And on our LRDA plan on sheet A3, the town had us show those portions that were less than 30% slope and label those as the LRDA. And those are only tiny little areas that are disassociated from one another, so too small to build anything but a shed. And so, because most of the site is over 30%, the least restrictive development area is over 30%, but it doesn't have any mature trees. It's outside of all the easements. It's the only place where we could fit in a fire apparatus turnaround that is required by the fire department. I also wanted to mention one thing about the water tanks. I believe the reason the water tanks were required for the house further up the ridge is that they were bringing water up an existing water line, whereas in this case, we're bringing a new water main up to this house for the private fire hydrant, which that large water line should provide enough water for the fire sprinklers to not need the tanks. And then finally, I wanted to mention that, that this project will enhance the fire survivability of the neighborhood. There'll be road improvements to Vivian Drive so that the fire department can get up there more easily. There'll be a fire apparatus turnaround at the house. There'll be a new private fire hydrant at the house. The house itself will be fire resistant, and all the new landscaping will be fire resistant. So,
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. There may be some questions. Any questions from council members? Okay, looking to Councilmember Rennie, no question, no hand raised. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so if we could go to the appellant, please. And Rohit, you have, and Dr. Miller, you have 3 minutes between you.
So obviously I'm
If
interested.
you don't mind, please
So
adjust the
I'm-
microphone.
I should have grown taller. So I'm much interested in fire. And what we're doing here is a kitchen table issue because people can't get fire insurance anymore. Anything that's suitable or reasonable. And so what we're suggesting is we put a home in a wilderness, and no one's going to believe this doesn't increase one's fire risk to the community. So I think the constituents are going to remember this in a terrible way if there is a fire more than 100 feet from the construction site, chances are the construction site is a very small percentage of this land. I think he should be asked to have a regular visitation from the fire department and the code department of the town to make sure that he's in compliance with these and that this should be part of the permit. I think no trucks should be parked on the upper driveway, and there's got to be a way of determining by the planning department if significant damage has been done to the down driveway so that we can adjust the amount of improvement or repair that's required after these trucks come and go. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Don't see any, so thank you. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Hi. I'm not suggesting that any home be a bat cave. I do contest the premise that so much window coverage is needed on southwest elevation to allow for natural light. In the written materials that I provided, most of the rooms have more than 2 vantage points where they get these natural light from. There's only like maybe 1 or 2 exceptions over there. So I fundamentally don't see how that is a premise. I'm not suggesting it be a bat cave. It should have natural light. It should have the appropriate amount of natural light, which does not intrude on our privacy. So yeah, I'll just leave that as my last thought.
Okay, thank you. We still have 28 seconds, and also if there's questions. Again, please adjust the mic.
The trees that get put in, they shouldn't be pine trees or Douglas fir because that material ignites quickly.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I will close the public part of the hearing, and now we will go to questions, deliberation by the council. So is there anyone who has questions of staff or clarifying questions before we start looking at various positions? I do have one, and that is to go back to this LRDA. If I looked through, and I really couldn't find it. The font is extremely small. I looked on A1, which referred to something restrictive, but I couldn't tell where it is. So if it's possible to put that graphic up, that would be helpful for me as well.
Thank you for that question, and I can help support looking at this. I know it's still a little difficult, but the darker gray color you're seeing that's going in a winding line, what that is showing is all of the easements that are encumbered on the site. So the applicant's trying to show that, again, these are building areas that cannot be built upon because there are existing easements. The lighter gray, which is the majority of the site, is showing slopes over 30%. There are very few pockets of white. They are concentrated more towards the south of the property, and so small that it's even challenging here to see. But those are the very limited pockets, and there's about 4 limited pockets of LRDA that's available.
And if I could follow up, what is the square footage of the LRDA?
Staff does not have that amount, but the applicant may be able to respond to that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any further questions?
I would just comment that
Badani.
I understood the pockets to add up to maybe a total of 200 square feet.
Okay. Okay, are there any further clarifying questions or discussion about how to proceed with this? Okay, and anyone like to start with some comments? Councilmember Badami.
So council needs to make a determination if the Planning Commission erred or abused their discretion. I have difficulty making that finding. What I have found is that the applicant is willing to make further modifications to work with the appellant. And I have a number of them listed in attachment 6. I saw Mayor Hudas also taking some notes, but I would be inclined to deny the appeal of the Planning Commission.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I have similar thoughts to Councilmember Badami. I felt that there was a good faith effort to meet some of the biggest concerns, which I thought were legitimate, and I thought the Planning Commission had a robust conversation about this, and so I tend to agree with the sentiments of Councilmember Badami.
I see Councilmember Rennie has his hand raised.
Yeah, my thoughts are kind of aligned with the two comments just made. I do have a question procedurally. Since these new items are sort of related to Planning Commission direction, but maybe not completely, if we just adopt the resolution denying the appeal, will these things occur, or do we need to do something in addition in our motion?
No, they will not. And so if the town council is interested in modifying the approved application in any way, the council could either send this back to Planning Commission to make those modifications, or the council could deny the appeal and also modify the approved planning application to include the new changes that have been made since this was considered by the Planning Commission.
And is there an easy way to reference those? We just say the proposed changes in attachment 6, or is it more complicated than that?
No, the council could reference all of the changes that are listed in attachment 6.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question for staff about some of the additional ones that Dr. Miller raised in his rebuttal and wanted to see whether they are addressed in attachment 6 or elsewhere in the conditions of approval. The first one was regular visitation by the fire department. Is that anything that the town can either enforce or encourage, or particularly during the construction phase when there are frequently fire incidents that occur?
Thank you for that question. I'll start, and I'll look to any other staff members to support. Presently, the conditions of approval don't include any language that reference regular visits from the Santa Clara County Fire Department. There are, in the conditions of approval, language regarding the building inspector doing their site inspections, the PPW inspector who will be doing their inspections, but I'm not aware of any conditions that staff could add at this time that would require the Santa Clara County Fire Department to be regularly visiting the site.
And through the mayor, so Ms. Schubin's correct, and we don't necessarily control how often the fire department visits any site, and I don't recall a condition where that was a requirement that we placed. If the council is interested in that request, then I would suggest that we can craft a condition that basically requests that the county fire make appropriate site visits during construction to ensure safe site conditions.
And I don't think the town could require that, correct? It'd be
a recommendation.
So we'd
work close with our colleagues over at County Fire.
Okay, thank you. And then there was another one which was no trucks parking on the upper driveway. Is that included now, or is that something that's new?
Thank you for that. That's not presently included. If the council was inclined, that would need to be added.
Does staff any thoughts about whether that's feasible, or would that entirely block the construction from occurring?
So I'll add that there is a requirement in the conditions for construction management. So Parks and Public Works works closely with property owners and applicants when they get into the building and construction phase. That direction could definitely be offered. We would need to probably do further analysis to see if that would preclude construction vehicles that we would otherwise deem appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And then there was another one which was for town to inspect the lower driveway for damage that might occur during construction.
Thank you for that. So presently, there is nothing in the conditions of approval since Vivian Drive is a private road. However, staff did include in the staff report that the council could add a condition for a pre and post construction survey for Vivian Drive to be provided to the PPW inspector to correct any damage that occurred during the construction.
Okay, thank you. And then there was another request about the type of tree and specifically saying that certain kinds were not appropriate. Does town ordinance and requirements for new plantings, does that address that?
So presently, because the site is located in the hillside area, any replacement trees are required to be native pursuant to Appendix A of the Hillside Development Standards and Guidelines. And so those list the recommended trees, which are mostly of oak species.
Okay, thank you. And if I recall, there was a fair amount of work done on what are the appropriate ones in our hillside design guidelines. And then the last question I had was about this geotechnical work. And it apparently during the Planning Commission, there was the impression that further geotechnical reports would be provided when building permits were issued as a condition to is it possible to require those reports sooner than that point, especially since they are supposed to be available in just a few weeks?
Thank you for that. I'll start, and our engineering division may want to step in. Presently, the conditions of approval require that those reports be completed prior to the issuance of building permits. So that way, if there are any issues identified through those reports, they can be incorporated into the building permit design.
Is there any ability to, prior to have it more immediate than just when the permits are required?
James Watson, PPW. I can jump in on that. So the timing of those, obviously we're going to want to make sure the geotechnical design is sufficient when the building permits are submitted. And so typically we would do a review of the geotechnical report during the plan review during the construction phase. So this particular project was peer reviewed by the town's consultant, and the consultant found that the plans as submitted were sufficient for entitlement purposes, but that there were some needs that would be met during their building plans. The geotechnical engineer provided some conditions that we did place into the project conditions of approval that will meet all of the concerns that are peer reviewed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Would anyone like to move this forward with a motion? Councilmember Badami.
So I move to adopt a resolution in Attachment 7 denying an appeal of a Planning Commission decision to approve a request to construct a new single-family residence and site improvements requiring a grading permit on vacant property zoned HR1 located at 16497 South Kennedy Road, with modifications to the approved plans per Attachment 6, Item Number 12, which includes reducing window coverage by 20%, removal of the balcony off the living/dining room, reduced the remaining balcony to a minimum size, removal of one large set of glass doors, reduced the 16-foot glass doors to 12 feet in the family room, the recommendation that County Fire make appropriate site visits during construction, safe parking of construction vehicles, and pre- and post-construction survey regarding the condition of the roadway.
Vice Mayor?
The second.
Okay. Comments before we vote on this? I would just add a comment that this is very tough because the fire safety is really a very big concern there, and that we may need to look at our zoning requirements in the future regarding defensible space on private roads and other requirements, but that I find that the development as it's proposed with the additional modifications that Councilmember Badami read addresses the current zoning requirements there, and so I would be unable to uphold the appeal for that reason. I do think that there's been constructive work on identifying additional items that have made the project a little bit more compatible. I am always concerned when there's information that doesn't appear to be correct, and the 20% window coverage, I think, was not correct in the letter. It's 20% of that particular elevation, and so it wasn't the total coverage, but I think that the additional requests from Dr. Miller that were incorporated go about as far as the town can go in managing the safety of the construction activities, and so I will also be supporting the motion. Okay, so let's do a roll call vote on this, please.
Councilmember Rennie?
Aye.
Councilmember Badami?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Hudas?
Aye. Thank you, and we would not be appeal rights for this since the council is the deciding body, and so this agenda item is concluded and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.